Coming up in today's newscast, Israel prepares to reopen the Erez border crossing with Gaza, the government greenlights construction of the long-awaited egalitarian prayer space at the Western Wall, and after 7 short episodes, it's all come down to this, the season finale of Sacha Baron Cohen's hit Showtime series, Who is America? For a while now, there's been growing talk of a possible Hamas-Israel ceasefire. Hamas officials have been in and out of Cairo for the last month, following weeks of some of the worst violence between Israel and the Palestinians in years. Now, while it appears as though those talks may be hitting a dead end, Israel's defense minister now says that the Erez border crossing checkpoint with Gaza will open due to a significant fall in violence from the Strip. The Erez checkpoint is the only place where pedestrians may either enter or leave the Gaza Strip on the Israel side. Israeli officials shuttered Erez roughly a week ago following a spike in violence from Hamas factions in the Strip. Though Israel does still see daily attacks, namely from explosives-laced kites and balloons flown over the border, Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman now notes the, quote, security calm that was held over the past week and the significantly reduced number of violent incidents, end quote. Meanwhile, however, rumors of a potential year-long ceasefire deal with Hamas seem to be fizzling out. Hamas officials seem to be hesitating on internal Palestinian strategy moving forward, as those talks in Cairo with the Egyptian moderators have been postponed for unspecified reasons. But one possible reason for this potential backpedaling could be the Trump administration's latest decision to slash a further $200 million in Palestinian aid money. While U.S. strategy here seems to be the eventual defunding and unraveling of UNRWA, the UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency, Israeli defense officials have actually come to another conclusion. Those officials are now concerned that the massive budget cuts will actually force Palestinians into a desperate situation, setting off a domino effect of power vacuums, thus giving Hamas an opportunity to seize further control. If Hamas sees an opportunity on the horizon to become even stronger, that would explain why they're now hesitating on maybe signing a ceasefire deal with Israel. Needless to say, much remains to be seen, and much remains mired in speculation. We've just learned that members of the Knesset's Arab Joint List Party are mobilizing to partner with officials from the Palestinian Authority. Word has that the two are working together to draft a UN resolution condemning Israel's recent passage of the contentious nation-state law. And this is all evidence that the fallout from this law is only just ramping up. If true, this would be a somewhat unprecedented move for Arab-Israeli lawmakers to work on major policy proposals with members of the Palestinian Authority. Having said that, both groups found themselves similarly outraged following the Knesset's passage of the Jewish nation-state law earlier this year. Proponents say that this law merely enshrines the country's Jewish identity into its de facto constitutional basic laws, but critics near and far accuse this law of making non-Jewish citizens of Israel essentially second-class citizens and of laying down the legal framework for an apartheid state. Indeed, these were among the charges made by Arab Knesset members in Israel's parliament shortly after the law narrowly passed its final vote. Minority groups across the country, including many who serve in the IDF alongside Jewish citizens, voiced similar outrage and hurt. But even Israeli Knesset members critical of the nation-state law say that Joint List MKs have no business partnering with officials from the PA, especially at the cost of bringing the issue to the United Nations. But the contentious nation-state law would almost certainly be on the international agenda regardless. Nations around the world have voiced their extreme concern that Israel's new direction is headed towards systemic discrimination. Even Israeli President Reuven Rivlin protested this law from the get-go, warning that it actually goes against the ideals of Zionism and would only come back to hurt Israel altogether. Rumor is that several Arab MKs are drafting a UN resolution with Palestinian leaders calling to condemn Israel over the passage of the new law. Palestinian factions have reportedly wanted to take things even a step further by requesting Israel's expulsion from the United Nations for violating charter agreements to uphold a fair and equal democracy. Now, this seems like an especially remote possibility given the fact that the U.S. would almost certainly veto any such vote if it were to come to the floor. Well, perhaps no prime minister in Israeli history has placed more focus on foreign state visits than the current one, Prime Minister Netanyahu. Netanyahu happens to be in the Baltics for this very moment for a historic state visit to the region, but at the same time, Netanyahu has faced severe criticism for attempting to forge ties with East European leaders with troubling track records and reputations with anti-Semitism. And joining me now to discuss this is Davidi Hermlin, the president of the International Center for Public Diplomacy in Israel. Davidi, thank you for joining us.
Shalom.
So first, I know that you have a lot of experience in the Baltics, right? So tell me, what do you make of this current state visit, the first time any Prime Minister of Israel has done this?
First of all, let me express my condolences for the loss of John McCain to his family and the American people. I think he was a great friend of Israel, and we all share the sorrow for his loss. Regarding the visit of Prime Minister Netanyahu, I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu understood the main issues of the European Union toward Israel. The policy of the European Union must be a consensus while talking about foreign policy. This is why Prime Minister Netanyahu understood that if we have difficulties or challenges to talk with Germany or to talk with France about current issues which we cannot agree about, still we have other allies inside the EU that can be our partners and to represent the Israeli point of view inside the European constitutions. There is a lot of complexity with our relations with the Baltic countries in the light of remembering the Holocaust.
Sure, we're talking about Lithuania and probably Latvia, especially in that regard.
Exactly,
right?
but I can share with you with my own experience. A few years ago, I held a visit in Latvia. It was during the National Day for remembering the Holocaust. And I went from neighborhood to neighborhood, not only inside the city center, but also in the suburbans, sorry for the bad expression, the slums of the capital. And you saw on each building the Latvian flag with a black strip to express the memory of the Holocaust. Something like that you cannot even see in Germany of today. And I think that the understanding of the responsibility of those countries to what happened to the Jews during the Holocaust there, you can see that they don't save efforts to express it. From the other hand, you still have some, political groups who would express nostalgic emotions toward the fighters, the patriots from the Second World War. And from Jewish point of view, those patriots were actually fascists and anti-Semitic.
They were Nazi collaborators in many cases.
Exactly.
Right.
But I must say that the young generation in those Baltic countries, especially my counterparts from the central right political wing in those countries, they understand the sensitivity. And after many, many talks with the young leadership of the Baltic countries directly, I can tell you that we can see a very bright future, not only of the relations between the countries, but also between the people. And I'm very happy for that.
Well, Netanyahu finishes up his historic trip in just a few days. I'm sure we'll have new alliances when he gets back. Davidi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, officials have just revealed some shocking news. The personal information of thousands of former IDF soldiers has been hacked, stolen, and sold to third parties over the course of the last several years. This is one of the biggest breaches to take place inside the army in quite a while. 4 Israeli suspects, including 2 IDF soldiers, are now believed to be behind this massive string of crimes. This has apparently all been going on since at least 2011. Back then, 4 suspects, including 2 civilian contractors in the Army's Meitav unit and 2 IDF soldiers with high-level security access to the IDF's recruitment system, allegedly started a scam to hack the personal detail of thousands of former soldiers. Army databases kept this info on hold, including where the former soldiers currently live, their phone numbers, if they have children, and much, much more. The suspects are believed to have stolen this intel and sold it to third-party clients, most likely marketing collectors. And that's why between 2011 and 2014, former soldiers began reporting a suspiciously high level of targeted cyber marketing. The Justice Department eventually found cause to open a full investigation into this, and many years later, Israel's Privacy Protection Authority believes that this was, in fact, one of the biggest cyber scams to happen within the confines of the Army in quite a while. Officials are urging the Justice Department for criminal indictments on all 4 suspects, including violating privacy, conspiracy, bribery, hacking, and illegally distributing privileged documents. While it does not immediately seem as though this intel was directly sold to any foreign entities, that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. one needs look no further than the recent Cambridge Analytica scandal in the US as reference. Now, in that case, personal data from Facebook was allegedly taken without users' permissions and filtered to outside clients for the purposes of potentially swaying the 2016 US presidential election. If cyber terrorists were able to glean this kind of personal detail from thousands of IDF soldiers from a third-party marketing share, this would truly be a security nightmare. Following years of delays, red tape, and fierce debate, the Jerusalem municipality has confirmed that the egalitarian prayer space of the Western Wall is finally set for construction. This is a space intended to allow mixed prayers of all kind at the Holy Kotel. Despite religious debate that has often hampered this kind of effort, work will commence almost immediately in order to accommodate infrastructure for people in wheelchairs. This project has been in limbo for many years now, following intense ultra-Orthodox protest that prayer at Judaism's most holy site should comply with Talmudic laws separating men and women. But for many worshippers and foreign travelers, the religious freedom to practice their Judaism as they see fit has led to repeated calls for an egalitarian section at the Kotel. Earlier this year, it seemed that things were finally moving when Culture Minister Miri Regev was tasked with handling the plans herself. But shortly thereafter, Regev dropped out due to what she called personal conflicts of interest. The committee tasked with construction failed to find a willing replacement for Regev for a number of months. Word is that Prime Minister Netanyahu himself stepped in to give it the green light, and this seemingly does appear to be the case now. Jewish rabbis both abroad and here in Israel have hailed this news as a major step forward for religious freedom, one that should allow all Jews the chance to express their religion in whatever form they choose, without stepping on anyone else's. Now, tourists planning their first, second, or 10th trip to Israel often have a very tricky task ahead of them. Do I spend more days in Jerusalem or take more time at the Dead Sea? Is a lot worth the flight, etc., etc.? But for most people, right at the top of that list every time is a trip to Tel Aviv, and the man I'm about to introduce to you is partially responsible for that, in my opinion. With me here is Michael Hai, the owner of Vision Hospitality, which has developed some 40% of the boutique hotels that you find right here in Tel Aviv. Michael, great work. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So what does Vision Hospitality do exactly?
We specialize in developing unique and great experiences, basically what we call the boutique and lifestyle hotels.
Okay, and what does that mean? What does it mean you take the kernel of an idea for a hotel or an experience and you just like, oh, the wallpaper's this and the couches are that? Like, what does it mean to develop a hotel?
So we start from the very first question, whether or not a project is feasible, and through all the stages until it becomes the best and ultimate experience for the customer.
Okay.
We create great hotel investments. It's great for the investors and also great for the visitors and the guests.
What's like a recent example, if you have one?
Wow, we just opened Fabric Hotel just on Nachlat Binyamin in Tel Aviv. We opened a few months ago Sol in Charnichovsky in Tel Aviv. We opened more than 20 hotels in Tel Aviv over the past 10 years and been involved in many more. We're transforming the Tel Aviv market into a global boutique and lifestyle hotel hub.
Yeah, Tel Aviv is so interesting because, it's so mixed, it's so international, but at the same time, it's a really easy place to visit and get around, and it's right by the airport, so it's convenient. And you guys have been in the business for over a decade, so how has Tel Aviv changed as a destination spot from 10, 12 years ago to now?
I think the biggest change is that Tel Aviv emerged as a global and urban destination where once 10 years ago, maybe tourists who would come to Israel would stop in Tel Aviv maybe a few hours and then go to explore the country. Today, they come over to Tel Aviv because of the nightlife, the culinary experience, the architecture, everything that the city has to offer, the beach, obviously, and the weather. And then they explore Israel from Tel Aviv. And so Tel Aviv became really the place from where everything starts from the for the tourists. And that really transformed the whole hotel market.
Sure. Where do you think we'll be in another 10 years? What will Tel Aviv look like in 10 years from now?
I think the depth of the market will evolve. I think that we'll see more hotels going into the urban clusters of the city, new neighborhoods, in different type of hotels, maybe bigger and also smaller. Tel Aviv will expand north and south, and the whole metropolitan of Tel Aviv will really become something that is great and big as others in the in Europe and in other places.
Wow. Well, you guys are responsible for some of the coolest hotels in the city.
And bars.
And bars, of course. Great work. I put my parents up in a hotel not too long ago. They had a blast. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you.
Keep it up.
Just need quiet and then everything will bloom here.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, the human brain is almost unquestionably one of the most complicated, sophisticated systems of any kind on the planet. But even now, after decades of advanced study, there's still a lot that we do not know about the brain. One major theory, however, has concerned how the brain actually retains information and kind of learns, and that's been the backbone of neural research since the 1940s. But now, a new Israeli study has suggested that maybe we've had the entire idea of the brain all wrong to begin with. So this may sound a little complicated at first, but trust me, it's important. So we all know that the brain is made up of tens of millions of brain cells called neurons, which send signals throughout our bodies controlling everything we do. And on top of that, this hotbed of neurons is where the brain processes and stores the human metadata of our emotions, our personalities, our memories, and so much more. Okay, so in a nutshell, a neuron is made up of the nucleus at the center, a long arm-like axon, and shorter dendrites. And these branch-like arms form the bridges to the next neuron in the chain, creating a kind of neural link that sends messages throughout the brain. But that electric spark of data actually jumps from neuron to neuron through a tiny synapse between brain cells. And that's where this new study comes in. Okay, so until now, the backbone of brain research has been that the strength of this synapse is where the bulk of the brain's power comes from. In other words, this synapse is where learning has thought to biologically occur in the human brain. But now, an Israeli team at Israel's Bar Ilan University has challenged that theory, presenting evidence that the learning actually occurs in a cell's dendrite. Now, if that seems like minutia, trust me, it is not. The idea that learning takes place physically within the cell, close to the nucleus, as opposed to the synaptic gap, could mean a lot. First of all, it would probably mean that we've been computing intelligence and brain activity all wrong. Most CT scans and MRIs measure the neural activity happening between synapses. But it also means that so-called weaker cells and synapses may actually have a totally different purpose in our brains than anyone ever realized. Now, with matters of the brain, nothing is ever totally clear, and it may never be. But clearly, the mysteries of the human mind is a puzzle that scientists are continuing to explore, one that brings them deeper and deeper into what it means to be human. So if you're anything like us, you were one of millions of people staying up late last night to watch the season finale of Sacha Baron Cohen's new hit series, Who is America? All 7 episodes took a very hard look at the current social political scene of the United States, which resulted from cringeworthy to absolutely astounding, but always with that bottom line of Cohen's one-of-a-kind humor. Now, TV's Emmanuel Kadosh is here with me to take a look back at Who's America. Emmanuel, now that it's over and we're looking back, how do you feel about the series?
I just have to say, I think that Sacha Baron Cohen is, such an amazing both actor, creator, everything that he did with this show. I think it was so amazing, and the way he exposes people in such a unique way. I love the show. I love the concept. I know there's a lot of backlash. It was very cringeworthy, let me tell you. But he did post, he tweeted actually kind of like a recap of this entire season. So why don't we take a look really quickly?
Let's do it.
Sacha Baron Cohen made a new program. It is called The Controversy. This morning, Roy Moore, a former Senate candidate from Alabama, is threatening legal action against Sacha Baron Cohen. Dick Cheney, Ted Koppel, the list goes on, with some calling for a boycott of the upcoming show. It was quite deceptive.
It was just so over the top.
The whole thing makes me feel uncomfortable.
It's fun.
I actually think Sacha Baron Cohen is a genius.
Is it possible to sign my water board?
Sure.
Can I get a whoop whoop?
No.
Why can't you see the truth?
Billy, I don't know what you're talking about.
You're gay. You're gay.
Not appropriate.
John's hands.
And it gets more insane.
Me and you, we got something in common. We both, how you say, lady killers.
No, I ain't killed nobody.
Oh, I didn't either. I didn't either.
Okay, so that takes us to the last episode. It's either a season finale or maybe a series finale, because I don't know how you can have him trick people again now that it's been out. But then again, they said that about Ali G. So.
It's a series finale. He said it. He came out with a tweet saying this will be the last episode. And like you said, I really don't think that he can continue
but every time
with
we
this
say
type
that,
of thing.
he comes up with something new.
Oh, he'll come up with something new.
Sure.
It's just not going to be named Who is America, and it's going to be, I'm assuming, different characters. This last episode, which was the series finale episode, one of Sacha's, this was definitely my favorite part of the entire episode, was when Gio Monaldo, his Italian character, interviewed O.J. Simpson. And the last thing you can see actually on the video where he was like, we have something in common. We're both lady killers.
Lady killers.
And he has no shame. He has no problem trying people and pushing their limits. And OJ obviously denied it, as he's been doing for plenty of years now.
So I read about this. So what's interesting is that Cohen so his goal back when they were planning the genesis of the series was he wanted to have an interview with O.J. Simpson and have him on camera confess to this
I think a lot of people want to do that.
murder that he may or may not have committed. That O.J. of course was found not guilty for in the trial of the century.
The glove didn't fit.
Glove did not fit. But what Cohen did was he spent weeks training with FBI negotiators to come up with the system of, okay, here's how you talk to people and elicit a confession, but that's on top of the acting preparation of, okay, I'm in character. There's another actress who plays that character's girlfriend who is in on the gag.
He's so good. He's so good, and it's so well prepared, and it's so well, like you said, researched and thought out, and everything is practiced, and everything is really trying to push things to the limit, something that I've never seen. I don't know about you. I've never, ever seen something like this.
No, not since the Ali G show or Borat.
Well,
really.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there was something that is needed to mention. Sarah Palin was not on this episode.
That was the big thing, because she was one of the first people to come out in the beginning that said, hey, I've been pranked.
Yes.
I'm going to sue maybe. I'm going to sue
She even came out
Showtime.
saying, you got me, Sasha. We get it. It was such a poor joke. This whole thing, you know, is going on saying how much she really didn't appreciate the joke. But she did. This was the funniest part now that it's on the screen.
Yes.
They may have not shared the interview, but they did give her credit for...
as an inadvertent participant.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
So she did publicize the show. It was a great time. She didn't... the interview didn't air. This aired instead, which I think spoke for itself.
That's either the joke,
It
or
is.
I know that Cohen was meticulously, okay, let's cut this out, let's change this. Like he was very
changes
methodical
things till the last
yeah.
minute. Like that's what the Showtime representative said. So they didn't even know until the last minute what was going to be happening. So people say that either she won the feud or he won the feud. I'm going to go ahead and say that he won the feud because that was pretty funny.
I think we've learned not to pick a fight with Sacha Baron Cohen. It's sad to see the series come to an end, but maybe we'll have something new from him to talk about.
I'm excited
next time.
to see it.
Emmanuel, thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. Well, Israeli innovation in the medical industry is among some of the world's best. In addition to a wide range of cutting-edge treatments and procedures, tons of science fiction-esque medical tech was developed right here in the Holy Land. Developers now have created a new device that feels something out of Star Trek, a breathalyzer that can detect signs of early onset Parkinson's disease. So take a deep breath and check this out. If the idea of sniffing out a disease that hasn't even fully formed yet sounds too good to be true, here's some science to back that up. Israeli researchers have long ago found human breath to be an excellent way of detecting what's going on in your body. Multiple teams have already created a kind of robotic nose for cancer along these lines, but Parkinson's is a degenerative illness whose symptoms only manifest later in life, making early detection and, of course, diagnosis exceptionally tricky. And considering Parkinson's has no known cure, a patient's ability to cope with the disease hinges on that early detection and, of course, treatment. And that's where developers at Israel's Technion Institute of Technology entered the equation. Their new tech has sensors that analyzes a patient's breath with up to 80% accuracy in flagging signs of early onset Parkinson's. But it doesn't stop there. The teams were able to isolate nearly 17 specific signatures in human breath that they link to all kinds of diseases. We're talking MS, Alzheimer's, and a range of cancers. Right now, roughly 10 million people all over the world are suffering from Parkinson's. The disease is particularly nasty, and it affects long-term systems in the brain right down to our basic motor functions, and of course it can quickly decay into dementia. Needless to say, having a jump start on Parkinson's would improve the quality of life for thousands of unyet diagnosed patients. We can only hope that this tech finishes trials soon and finds its way into doctors' hands. And now for our Hebrew word of the day. A new Israeli tech can detect early onset Parkinson's with just a whiff of your breath, and that's why today's word is linshom, which is how you say to breathe in Hebrew. So linshom, or to breathe, is literally to live. I mean, whether you realize you're doing it or not. Every human automatically noshmim. They breathe about 16 times a minute, in fact. And when you do the math, that means you noshem, or breathe, something like 23,000 times a day. That's probably why every single stress advice begins with this rule: before you do anything, don't forget to linshom. And that note, let's go take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight, the weather continues its current trend, partly cloudy skies and a high of 87 or 31 degrees Celsius. And tomorrow's looking like more of the same. Temperatures hold at a high of 87 or 31 degrees Celsius and a low of around 78 or 26 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.64 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Israel English News and on Twitter at ILTV News. I'm Brad Allen Smith. Thanks for watching.